Okay, it's funny that that song's about sparrows, and one of the scriptures is about sparrows, and I felt like a hero yet a villain yesterday. Where I live is very drafty, and some woodpeckers poked a hole and made a nest in the wall, and somehow one of them got through the roof into this area. It's a long story, but they got in this area and he couldn't get out. And he was chirping and jumping up and down, and I did that for about a day overnight, so we got really tired, so we wouldn't fight me and stuff. So I had to get a ladder to get up there and save him, and I had some gloves on so he wouldn't poke my skin, and I took a pillowcase to throw him in the pillowcase so I could go down the stairs, because I couldn't hold him and go down the stairs safely. And so I got him outside, and I put him by a bird bath that he wouldn't eat, and I threw him in the air, and he kind of glided from here to about 4 feet. And it's like, he was like this big around and this long. He's like, you big enough to fly? But he couldn't fly, I guess. So he's just like looking pitiful. So I put him on this bale of hay where he could kind of be safe from critters. Well, about an hour later, he was gone. And I went around the other side of the house and there was feathers everywhere. And there was this raven flying off with a carcass. So I saved him, and I put him in harm's way with the raven. So I felt good, then I felt bad. It's like, and his parents would go around chirping and stuff and getting mad. I felt kind of bad, but I didn't know what else to do, so. Anyway, he did survive. Now, for something completely different. There were two boys arguing in the classroom before the teacher came in. The teacher said, "What are you two arguing about?" One boy answers, "We found a $10 bill and decided whoever tells the biggest lie gets it." "You two should be ashamed of yourselves," said the teacher. "When I was your age, I didn't even know what a lie was." The boys looked at each other and handed the $10 bill to the teacher. All right, today's readings are Psalm 87, 1 through 10, and 16 through 17, Matthew 10, 24 through 39, and I'll be reading from the New Living Translation. Bend down, O Lord, and hear my prayer. Answer me, for I need your help. Protect me, for I am devoted to you. Save me, for I serve you and trust you. You are my God. Be merciful to me, O Lord, for I am calling on you constantly. Give me happiness, O Lord, for I give myself to you. O Lord, you are so good, so ready to forgive, so full of unfailing love for all who ask for your help. Listen closely to my prayer, O Lord. Hear my urgent cry. I will call you whenever I am in trouble, and you will answer me. No pagan God is like you, O Lord. None can do what you do. All nations you made will come and bow before you, Lord. They will praise your holy name, for you are great and perform wonderful deeds. You alone are God. Look down and have mercy on me. Give your strength to your servant. Save me, the son of your servant. Send me a sign of your favor. Then those who hate me will be put to shame. For you, O Lord, help and comfort me. And now, let's see here. Matthew 10, 24 to 39. Just throw me into the fire here with all these long readings. Students are greater than their teacher, and students are not greater than their teachers, and slaves are not greater than their masters. Students are to be like their teachers, and slaves are to be like their master. And since I, the master of your household, have been called the prince of demons, the members of my household will be called even worse names. Don't be afraid of those who threaten you, for the time is coming when everything that is covered will be revealed, and all that is secret will be made known to all. What I tell you now in the darkness, shout abroad when daybreak comes. What I whisper in your ear, shout from the housetops for all to hear. Don't be afraid of those who want to kill your body. They cannot touch your soul. Fear only God, who can destroy both soul and body in hell. What is the price of 2 sparrows? 1 copper coin? But not a single sparrow can fall to the ground without the Father knowing it. And the very hair on your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are not you are more valuable to God than a whole flock of sparrows. Everyone who acknowledges me publicly here on earth, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But anyone who denies me here on earth, I will also deny before my Father in heaven. Don't imagine that I come to bring peace to the earth. I come not to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against his mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Your enemies will be right in your own household. If you love your father or mother more than you love me, you are not worthy of being mine. Or if you love your son or daughter more than me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you refuse to take up your cross and follow me, you are not worthy of being mine. If you cling to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for me, you will find it. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Let's join in silent prayer. Please pray with me and for each other. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Good morning. Happy Father's Day, and welcome to God's house. He's been expecting that. Did you listen very carefully to that gospel reading that Mike did? Did you listen carefully to that? That's rough. That is a rough scripture to listen to. In fact, that'll put a burr under your saddle. Or, I was thinking on the way in here, maybe it would be sand in your cream of wheat. And to be a little bit more timely, a pineapple under your mask. But I struggled with that this week. It's nothing new. I had struggled with it before. But what I would like to do today, in honor of Father's Day, and we'll come to the scripture, I would like to talk with you this morning about my daddy's boots. My daddy's boots. I'd like to have you go on a journey with me. There are a lot of pathways down the mountain, we've said, but there are very few paths up the mountain, and I'd like to take you around to the side for just a little bit. I'd like to talk about my dad. His name was Paul. It's a pretty good name, I think, don't you? But you ain't heard nothing yet. His middle name was Silas. So it was doubly good, in my opinion. He grew up as a farm kid. He had 9 brothers and sisters. And by that time, during that time, the family, they raised big families so that they could help on the farm. And boy, did they ever. They worked hard planting corn and cotton and soybeans. And then, of course, the men and women all got together, the girls, and they would have what they called a truck garden, big garden. I thought Judy's garden and my garden at home was big, but not compared to the gardens that they had. My dad served in World War II. He was sent to Germany, to Belgium, to Holland and France. He was what they call a part of the greatest generation. Oh, I would love to have been a part of the greatest generation. I'm not even a part of the boomers. I came right in between, so I'm a nothing. But he was a part of the greatest generation, and I think I have an inkling why. He did see combat, and when he came home, I wasn't around yet. When he came home, he brought something that, as I came along later, I became very curious about. He was issued he may have been issued 2 or 3 pairs of combat boots. And when I found those combat boots that he brought home with him in the closet, I was amazed. The combat boots had a little flap that came to the outside and 2 leather straps that were hooked together with a brass hook. And then the other matched it on the other side. They were well made, and during his time in Germany, I can just imagine that it kept his feet comfortable. It also supported him, gave him strength. And they were his favorite footwear. He depended upon them. And he loved them so much that when he would take me out hunting and fishing with him, he always wore those boots. I could never think of my dad going out anywhere, camping, hiking, fishing, hunting, without those boots. He was an excellent hunter. He was an excellent fisherman. He had to, because growing up, they depended upon him and his skills to provide game and fish for the family table. Dad wasn't a talker. He didn't talk a lot. He was kind of gruff. His thoughts were deep, though, and his love was great. He didn't know how to express love in words, but he did it. He showed it with his actions and the kindness that he had for other people. Well, I'd like to talk to you about Daddy's boots and one particular hunting trip. You'll notice that in this story of a hunting trip, we don't talk much about hunting because that wasn't the important part of the story. We went on a lot of hunting trips. He taught me a lot. We went on a lot of fishing trips. He taught me how to fish. He got into his hunting duds. You can't go hunting unless you got a costume, right? So he got into his hunting duds, his hunting vest. Had a thing that went all the way back around for squirrels when he shot the rabbits that we went out after. Well, he packed the car, and we took off on an old dirt road. And after about an hour of driving, you can picture this if you can, he pulled off the road into a little clearing to park. We got out, put the hunting vests on, took our rifles. We walked a few yards, and there was a barbed wire fence there. He climbed through first, put his gun down, took my gun, and then he put his boot on that lower wire and pulled up on the upper one to make room for me to slip through. Well, I got barbed. But that's okay. I was on the other side, hung, barbed, and he reached up and just with one little motion, took the barb out And then I thought about those boots. As I was going through, I looked down and there were those boots. I'd love to have a pair of boots like that. I don't even know if they make them anymore. I know when I was in the Air Force later, they didn't have those straps that came around. We didn't have anything cool. He took off at a good pace. I had trouble keeping up because I was just a little kid and I was always having to run. At the tree line, he paused and waited for me, but he didn't look back, saying with his eyes, "Come on, Johnny, get up here. Keep up." He didn't do that. He just waited, kind of looked around at the trees as if he were trying to decide where we were going to hunt. He was a still hunter. That means we didn't have a dog. We just eased through the woods. Then through the woods, no trail. We had the walnut trees, the oak trees, elms, and in October, the floor of the forest of the woods was just covered with dead leaves. He stopped often for me, although he didn't really seem to mind. We came to a creek. It was wide. It was fast. He went across first, stepping on the rocks, as if to say, "Johnny, I want you to watch where I step, and I want you to step where I step." I did it up until the last rock, all the way up to my hip. I looked up, and he had a hand out and just lifted me up on the other side. On the other side, we climbed a little hill, and we started still hunting. I was still straining to keep up with him. He was strong, he was skilled, and I wanted to be just like my dad. And I didn't want to let him down. Every time I got behind, I looked up ahead, and I couldn't look up at him, but I could see those boots. And I knew as long as I could see those boots, I was going to be okay, because I knew that he knew where he was going. I didn't learn till later that sometimes he didn't. But I couldn't see him so much as I could see the boots. It's tough. It's the tough training that he put me through that helped me in so many ways. We were out of breath, I was coughing, I would fall down, I would fall in the water, and he was always there to bring me out. My dad was calm. I could trust him. He knew how to read signs in nature. Sometimes I think he could track somebody who was walking on hard rock. There are some trackers that can do that, you know. What did I have to do? Not get distracted. Pay attention to where he was leading, and knew that there would be breaks for rest. Oh yeah, the best break I think we ever had was Mom had packed a little lunch for us. And Dad and I sat down under an oak tree, and he gave me a bologna sandwich, a piece of Velveeta cheese, and some vanilla wafers. Anybody ever eat that for lunch? A few of you. We didn't know Velveeta was bad for you, but we did find out later that it made good nachos. Love my dad. As I say, I wanted to grow up to be just like him. And maybe one day I could wear boots like my daddy. Wear boots. Then I could go farther, faster, and be just like him. So what does that have to do with today's scripture? Like I say, this is a rough scripture. But there is a part that you have to read, not just the text. You need to read the subtext. You need to read between the lines for the good news. I believe my memory of my dad is kind of like a feeling I have for God, our Heavenly Father. He's strong. He's smart. He knows a lot about nature. He created it. I can depend on him. He loves me. And he knows just when to call the time for rest. If God had a son that he'd like to take hunting, it would be Jesus, huh? And I wonder if God ever, this is a little kid thinking here, if God ever took his son out hunting and taught him the ways of the forest. I wonder if he could guide him and show him all about the woods, teach him where to walk and the names of all the trees and all of that. It's just a kid's imagination. And I'll bet Jesus would like those boots too. He'd even tell him when it's time to eat, when it's time to rest. But oh well, the boy has dreams. In today's gospel lesson, I find God's Son Jesus is very busy trying to teach his disciples for the life they would be living. He was very brutally honest. He told them that it wasn't going to be a bed of roses, that people were going to call them names because they called Jesus names. Son of Satan, awful things, demons. Some of the things they had to learn in the scriptures were not very pleasant to hear. There would be hills to climb, there would be rocks in the path, streams to ford, there would be danger, lots of danger. Now, Matthew was really a magician with his pen. He's really a magician because he has so much information in just a little space of time to convey to his disciples. It's sort of like trying to explain a symphonic orchestra on a postcard. Jesus was giving instructions to prepare them for the hostility and the suffering that they would experience in their mission. But there was a central thread that seemed to unify his thoughts and leads us to observe that he was providing bread for the journey. He wants to make sure that they're strong enough. But can you hear the love that's going on there? Hear the love that's happening that Jesus has for his disciples? This scripture is about courage. It's about confidence. It's about mercy. And it's about love. He tells them, yes, the student isn't above the teacher in what he knows and what he can do, at least not yet. He tells the disciples that on this journey they will be hurt a lot, and it will be excruciating. We should not assume as disciples of Christ today that Jesus took care of everything for us, because he didn't. We are first world Christians, and that pain, that maligning could come to us. We find that text a little extreme. We haven't been maligned for our faith. No one has threatened our lives over our faith. Being a Christian hasn't required cross-bearing for most of us. For a lot of us, our church membership has led to friendships, sometimes jobs, extra sales. If we just look around the world, we find that it's very different for other world Christians. We've seen upheaval, we've seen murders, we've seen tortures, and that could come to our shoulders. And that's where it gets rough. It's where we need to trust in God and to believe on Jesus. But in our world, there are signs. Public school teachers feel free to talk about non-Christian religions, but they fear disciplinary action if they say anything positive about Christianity. What's up with that? Entertainment celebrities have great fun poking fun at us as Christians and putting us in a negative light. Even journalists like to point out to things that our churches do wrong and ignore the good work sometimes that's happening. Oh, we need to change that. We need to change that. You see, good news doesn't sell newspapers, and people don't tune into radio and TV stations. It's all about good news. Fundamentalist Muslims target infidels, Christians who do not share their beliefs, kidnap, murder missionaries. But just when we start feeling despondent and unsure, what does Jesus say? 3 words. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Remind yourself of this throughout the week. The next time you get fearful, or you get tense, or you get really uptight, remember, don't be afraid. Let it go. And trust that Christ is going to help you. We must acknowledge Christ by our deeds as well as our words. When you participate in regular worship service like you are today, you are acknowledging Jesus publicly. However, if someone selfishly or dishonestly acts on Monday, they compromise their Sunday witness. So the words of our mouths and the works of our hands need to be consistent. Sometimes the word for us is frightening, but the path Jesus walked was frightening and painful. So I'd like to close. I'd like to go back to my story at the beginning of Daddy's boots. Daddy prepared me for the journey. He got me the right clothes, the right equipment. He took me to the place where I could share in the Heavenly Father's beautiful creation. He helped me through the fence barrier that would have stopped me. He took me to the opening in the woods. His presence showed me that I did not need to be afraid. I could trust him. I could depend on him if I just followed. I confess him as my teacher and my guide. I depended upon him. He led me through trials and dangers. He showed me where the rocks were. He gave me food. He gave me rest. He gave me love. So in summary, today's scripture tells us you're not greater than the teacher. You'll be called names that hurt. You'll need to confess Jesus to others. You must teach others about Jesus' deeds and love. Don't be afraid, and you are important to God. If we just look in the distance, we can almost see that fence. And on the other side of that fence, just a little bit further, there's that tree line. We won't be afraid. A little way into the woods is that creek, cool and refreshing, not dangerous. You know where the rocks are now. Then there's that hill to climb. And if you look up at the top of that magnificent mountain, you can see the rays of a golden sunshine shining between the trees that stand so tall. There's the path. We can walk it together. So powerful, so mighty. So turn your hearts in quiet to God, who's waiting for you. Waiting to hear about your fears, waiting to hear about your joys, waiting to hear about your concerns, waiting to hear about your celebrations. Come to the God of mercy and justice and love.